Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by BetMGM, with myself, Kate Tracey, Andrew Mount and Dave Young, to look ahead to Scottish Grand National Day at Ayr. We've got a perfect blend, of course, as well, because we have group races on the flat at Newbury. Now, of course, we're on the back of the Grand National and the festival then at Aintree, where it was slim pickings in terms of us with the 5 races we had to go at then at Aintree itself, but very well done to Dave for finding Founder at 50 then as well, who managed to outbattle in the finish then to prevail for Dave. Now, hopefully we're going to have more to go at this weekend, because we have more races on offer with the ITV televised schedule as well. Now, we're beginning at Ayr with the 115 handicap chase, a premier handicap for 5 rods and over 2 miles and half a furlong at 115. Now, Sam's Bruit gets the quick turnaround here, 11-4 shot at the head of the market. Dave, would you like to kick us off with this one, please?
Yes, so we've got 6 horses in this race, 4 of them the last time out winners. That's the facts out the way. Now for the opinions. This race wasn't priced up when I looked at final decks earlier, but obviously I've got a spanner thrown in the works of almost every British race for the rest of the season now, with Willie Mullins sending horses over. Even with Dan Skelton and Paul Nicholls to an extent, they're running lots of extra, or potentially running extra horses to try and go for some prize money. So you have to, I don't know, you have to be careful with that stuff, because just because they've sent something over, it's not as good a sign as it previously may have been. I think the market's going to read into that stuff a little bit weird as well. So Sans Bruit, that you mentioned, recent winner, very good performance it was at Aintree. This is definitely an easier race. £10 hike though, and a quick turnaround. That puts me right off him, and I didn't think he'd be as short as he is. He's a top price 320 at the time of recording. I think that's terrible. Uncle Phil is the Willie Mullins horse. I think he's 150. I don't see how he's that good. Pembroke's Red 143. I don't think he's that good. Trepain Law has one round here, but again, I think he's probably held by the handicapper. Persian Time right down the bottom, I do think has plenty more races to win within himself, but he's like a 7-1 poke at the moment. Not that the price would put me off, but I do think that Tommy's Oscar is the one that you'd have to land on here. He was a short price favourite last time out when Hon Public just got the better of riders on the Storm. Tommy's Oscar just wasn't on a going day that day. I don't know what was up with him. He was a bit keen. He jumped out to his right, which he has done a little bit before, but I think 2 of his 3 chase wins have come going this way round. I can't believe he's as big as 15-2 in here, and he's been dropped a couple of pounds for that run. We know that he is a classy performer, so where I touched at Persian Time being a horse that I think has got more races to win within him, we have got some very fast horses in this race, and I don't think Persian Time will be able to keep up the gallop with them. So Tommy's Oscar, I can't believe when their price is up that he's 15-2. I think that's a pretty good price, so I'll take a swing at Tommy's Oscar. I think he's got a bit of a chance.
As the outsider of the field as well, then, with these 6 runners. So Tommy's Oscar. So Andrew, Dave's kicking us off with an outsider. Are you in agreement, or where are we looking?
No, funny old race. I mean, Anna Hamilton's done a terrible season in general. When they looked like they were coming back, there was a bit of a false dawn, and they still haven't built on that. And I mean, Tommy's Oscar jumped out to his right when he was beaten here over hurdles back in 2021. And it's a trait that sort of pops up now and again for reasons I can't quite fathom. And it did again last time out, so I'm a bit cool on his chances. I'm also cool on Persian Time. I think he is the most progressive of the lineup, but he's got 4 runs right-handed, 3 wins in a second, 4 runs left-handed, 2 seconds and 2 pulled up. So he's 0-4 this way round. So yeah, I'll just worry about that for him. Trepain Law, I mean, he's been beating trees up north. He's a typical Lucinda Russell. He rarely runs away from Ayr or Kelso. Yeah, the first time he ventured anywhere south of that, he was beaten out of sight at Doncaster. So that would worry me about him. Uncle Phil, he's got a terrible record. Got a great record following a defeat, 5 wins and a third from 6 completed starts, unseating once. So, and again, we're always told horses are not machines. All of a sudden, when there's a trainers' championship up for grabs, they are machines. Those sort of older than you two will remember when Nichols and Pipe were going for it, like, you know, many years ago, and they were running horses at Ayr on sort of Friday and Saturday, and then shipping them down to run somewhere on Sunday. So yeah, Uncle Phil, this is definitely an afterthought. You kind of like process of elimination. You get to Sombreau. I did do some research on what happens to Red Rum handicap winners next time out. You have to go back to 2008 to find the last one who followed up. But you go back further at the start of this century, 2 of the 6 who ran at Ayr did win next time out. And there's lots of ticks in boxes for this one. I think Briley, the queen of ITV Racing, can take this from the front again. So yeah, I'm going to be very boring. Go with the favourite, Bruit.
He's a 3-1 shot with the quick turnaround, like saying that success last time out, but fascinating how it's going to play out in terms of the Trainers' Championship with those three vying for the title then, all with the first three in the betting in our opener at Ayr. Now we move on to Newbury with the 130. This is the Group 3 Finest Surprise Stakes, otherwise known as the John Porter, for 4-year-olds and over a mile. For Arrest is the 11-8 market leader. But of course, we've got Hamish in here, aka Hamish.
Say it properly, come on.
We'll forever give the nod to Daryl then for this pronunciation. He sticks by still to this day, despite Hamish being an 8-year-old now and us all pronouncing it differently this entire time. He is second in though at 7-2. Andrew, does old Hamish win again?
Yeah, if Daryl Carter expires before me, which is big odds against, I agree. I will go to his grave and sort of chisel out Daryl and put Hamish Carter on there instead. So, but yeah, this is a fascinating one because you start off with like, how can we get the favourite beat? So you look at the rest and you think, well, hang on a minute. He's had 4 runs below Group 2 companies since his racecourse debut, and he's won them all. So that's a bit of a worry. Hamish, you think, well, hang on a minute, how can I get this one beat? And you think, well, he was 4 from 4 last season. Every time I fielded against him because of like the recent run angle, because he seems better and fresh, he went and made a fool of me anyway. The only slight concern is that he's had 3 runs here at Newbury. He's been beaten every time. Admittedly, the last 2 were sort of narrow defeats, albeit when short prices. And having turned up fresh first time out at the Chester May meeting to win the Ormond Stakes for the last 2 years, you just wonder why they're running here. Do they think he's going to need a run at the age of 8 and then go to Chester? So it just seems a slightly odd move not to go straight to that Chester contest. Al Corrine was a horse being a complete after timer that I put up when he won at Chester last year, back from a break. He goes well fresh. He loves soft ground. I mean, the ground is the interesting point here. Now, the going stick at the moment is 3.8, I think it is, or 3.9 at Newbury. They're calling it soft, good to soft in places. Now, last season it was officially soft, and they called it 4.8 for this meeting. Now, Proform rated the ground last season as heavy, not soft, on 4.8. Now they're saying 3.9 is good to soft in places, which seems an absolute work of fiction. So with a dry couple of days, you've no idea what you're going to get. So it's really difficult to bet in that first race at Newbury, unless you turn up and walk the course, which I can't be asked to do really because I'm lazy, and it's a long way away from my house. But you sort of are. I mean, you could look at this meeting and think soft, good to soft in places. Oh, it could have dried out to like good or good to soft by post time. But the going stick says it might still be heavy by post time. So yeah, what do you do? It's this is what punters are up against nowadays. Max Vega is another one I've sort of tipped up regularly on this pod. He loves Newbury. He's a real spring autumn horse, and he's got a verdict over Hamish to his name at this track on heavy going. So again, if it was proper soft heavy going, you need to fancy him each way. And even his stablemate Salt Bay has got some good form on soft ground. So yeah, it's tricky. I'm going to be incredibly boring yet again and go with Arrest, just because of that record below Group 2 company.
It is a solid one, isn't it, then, for Arrest? 11-8 favourite then. But yeah, he's probably priced up accordingly when you factor in, like say, why Hamish is here then instead of going to his usual spot. But David, I'm pleased that Andrew said that about the going stick readings and what the ground is currently listed as at present, because it's massively giving us mixed messages. So, I mean, as punters, it's not really good enough, is it?
Not really, no, and it's always interpretation, isn't it? It's always someone's opinion of it. You could have 2 different people. I know it should be consistent who's doing the stick readings, but one person's 3.8 is another man's 5.0. I just sort of try and deal with the variables that I can deal with. So like Andrew said, if you get to see a race beforehand or get the luxury of walking the course, you can put an opinion on there. But this is a really easy race, isn't it? Because Arrest is the best horse in the race. We know he goes really well fresh. He's 3 from 3 off of a break. As much as Andrew's touched on the fact that we know his form like outside of Group 2s, he's had 2 Group 1 seconds as well. One of them was on French heavy, so you never know how heavy it is. And he had that second in the St. Leger on soft. So I think regardless of what the going stick reading is going to be, unless it got to like fast ground, which is definitely not going to be, Arrest is just an absolute stone wall cert in this race. I'm a little bit surprised that you can still get the odds against about him. That makes me a little bit worried because I would have thought it'd be a smash-up job. But it's 11-8 at the time of recording. he's just much better than all of these, and it is that fresh record. I know there's maybe the ground thing that could be forgiving him those couple of runs, especially in the Derby, but there's nothing to be worried about from him in this race. Obviously, he's won round here before. He's just an absolute good thing on the Saturday, isn't he? So no more time to talk about this. We don't need to talk about it anymore anyway. Arrest just wins.
Arrest for the pair of you two then, and really strongly conveyed there by Dave as well, backing up what Andrew was saying. Now we head back to Ayr for the novices champion handicap chase for 5 rods and over 3 miles at 150. Now Venetia Williams has the market leader in this one, with Montgomery at 11-2 then in here. So again, we've got a really open contest. It's an each way plus race, 4 places on offer with Bet MGM for this one, Dave. So would you like to take this away?
Yeah, arrest is probably an apt little phrase that we can use, not the same word, but a few of these horses will need arrest if Willie Mullins just keeps running horses left, right and centre. However, I think I can make a case for Sharjah. There's one other one that I'm going to pair him with, but I mean, I know he doesn't necessarily, well, we don't know if he needs the extended trip in there, but let me just mention the names of horses, right, that he's come up against this season novice chasing. I Am Maximus, Founder 50, Ilete Tomps. Now, they've won all sorts of distances later on this season. We saw, well, they've all just won at the Aintree Festival. He's come up against some proper horses. He's rated 147. That's what he's running off in this particular race. I know he's an 11-year-old. He's hardly going to be progressive, but we know how talented he was in his absolute pomp. And we know as well that he is a novice chaser this season. So there is potentially still a little bit more to come from him. Now, he doesn't want ground to be real slow. And he's had that on a few of his runs this season as well. So I think there's a little bit of rain to come, like a few showers. It's officially soft at Ayr. How much it's going to dry out by this race on Saturday, I don't know, but I can't imagine it's going to get any slower. So I'm fairly happy with the ground on Sharjah. Like, I wouldn't have an excuse on that front. Paul Townend's been on him, I think, 3 times since he's been chasing. He's had 6 runs over fences. He's won 2 of those, so obviously he gets the best out of him. He's atop him in this time round. So I know it's going to be like a fairly big weight carrying performance, and it's a first try at 3 miles, but imagine that was just the key to him all along. He was coming second in champion hurdles and he was a stayers hurdle horse. I think there's enough in there to say that he's got, got to be worth a bit of a chance at the price. And at the price, or the time of recording, his top price is 10-1. I just think that seems quite big with 4 places up for grabs. So if there are stamina concerns, maybe he can hold on to 4th. The other one that I want to pair him with, though, is Inch House. This is a horse that's been beaten the last twice as favourite. Both of those instances were where the ground was classed as heavy. His last run at Newbury was terrible, is the only way to word it in there. They made no excuses for what happened after. They said they didn't really understand what had happened. But he has proved that he's got decent form, especially at this trip. We've got no question marks about that. He's down a pound from that last run, 136. Go right back to the start of the season when we knew that Chianti Classico was going to win an Ultima. He was getting 12 pounds from that horse, but he was rated 121 then. In terms of like relative ability, I think Inch House has got a bit more than his mark of 136. I think he's a fair price as well. He's 9-1, so I would probably be playing the pair, and I'd probably play the pair each way to be even more reserved. But it looks quite a good race, to be fair.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, but like I say, it's an each way plus race then with BetMGM, 4 places on offer, Inch House and Sharjah. What a time to find out that he's a stayer at the age of 11, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, loads of people, Andrew, at the start of his season were tipping Sharjah up then for the Aril. Now he's going into this handicap chase over 3 miles up at Ayr. Who would have thought it?
Those people who were tipping the Sharjah for the Aril are currently being detained under the Mental Health Act. I mean, Sharjah has always been a horse who's best in the sort of, October, November, December period, goes off the boil. I know he's sort of, placed at a couple of Cheltenham festivals, so he's never going to win in a million years. This is an 11-year-old, and to say it's a positive that he's an 11-year-old novice chaser is completely daft, even if he's trained by an absolute, genius. So he's only running here because, he might finish 4th and get 500 quid or something, whatever it is, and that will be the difference between winning and losing the Trainers' Championship. So I would just put a big line through him straight away. Sorry, Dave. Montgomery, I mean, it's up in class, and again, ground wise, they're calling it soft. This one needs it proper deep, and you'd like to see what's happening at Ayr on Friday before you get involved. It's tricky. I see that there is a little bit of support for Donny Boy, first time cheap pieces for Nick Alexander, 20s into 60s. I would check odds checker for the latest results, but I'd have to pay a tenner to find out. So and again, like walking the course at Newbury, I just can't be bothered. Yeah, I'll sort of I think I'd sort of pile the place pot with outsiders here, because people will look at the trainers of those at the head of the betting, and then I think with a lot of them it's an afterthought. So I'll just go Nick Alexander's Donny Boy, but confidence is about 0.5 on a scale of 1 to 100.
I can tell. But he's a 16-1 shot first time cheap pieces then, and at least Nick Alexander and Bruce then are in good form at the minute. But yeah, that was inspired. That was, as we move on to Newbury again then for the 205, the Dubai Duty Free Stakes, otherwise of course known as the Fred Darling. Group 3 for 3-year-olds over 7 furlongs. So in the turn of the fillies then, Andrew, in this one. Now, Relief Rally has been deposed as favourite. Now, the market sport has come in for Regal Jubilee here again for the Gosdens. But tricky to know which of these fillies is actually going to be getting the trip here.
Yeah, this is really difficult. I mean, generally speaking, the Newmarket's Rolling Mile course favours horses who race prominently. If you see a horse who wins from off the pace, it generally needs upgrading. But we had quite a few races last season where they've gone off too quick, maybe into a headwind. There's been a pace collapse, and like 4 of the first 5 have come from the back. Now you look at the Montrose Filly Stakes on the 4th of November. Regal Jubilee at 9-1 shot towards rear. The runner-up Jesus 12-1 midfield, and sort of the market leaders underperformed. You just wonder if they went a bit too fast that day, and she was flattered. I mean, Relief Rally, I'd take the opinion now that she won't stay, and that she'll be back over sprint trips after this, and won't run in the won't run any other. She's not even entered in the 1,000 guineas this year, I don't think. So that would seem, it's just a bit of an experiment. Bulgaria, this is sort of guessworking, isn't it? So Stefano Botti to Marco Botti, unbeaten, but it could be an 80 rated handicapper, could be a Group 1 winner. So you're going down the field to try and find a bit of value. Topanga's not going to handle the ground based on breeding, being by Sayuni. So you're sort of left with like El Malka and Star Music, and those are the two I'd be sort of putting in the place pot. El Malka, at least, it's only had the 1 run, could be open to any sort of improvement. And Star Music, I thought, was particularly interesting for Richard Hughes. We all know how well he started the season. He's still running at something like a 35% strike rate in the last fortnight. Narrowly beaten over 6 furlongs at Salisbury on a debut. Looked to be crying out for the step up and trip after that, but they ran her over 6 again. She's gone to Newbury for a maiden. Again, good late work, finished 3rd of 16 under Ryan Moore. And then stepped up to 7 furlongs at Kempton in September. Whoosh won by 7.5 lengths. Very impressive. And then we saw her once more. That was behind Dance Sequence, who was runner-up behind Pretty Crystal in group company at Newmarket earlier this week. And again, a pace collapse race. The winner, Dwelt Start towards rear. The runner-up slowly away in rear. The 4th was Dwelt Start in rear. She's done clear best of those who've raced up at the pace, albeit she was a 25-1 shot, racing fairly keenly. And I just thought that, if she settles, then, given her yard's good form, I thought she could run a big race on a comeback. And Richard uses William Buick as well, which seems significant.
It does, doesn't it? Like saying the way that Richard Hughes has started the season, and he has said that he believes that this is his best crop he's ever had. And after 10 years then in the training game, that this might just be the season to really catapult that form to the next level. So Star Music. But I'm also so pleased, sorry Dave to butt in, that you said about El Malka. It's honestly been the biggest mouthful for me all day, because I was going through this race earlier, and I was similar to you, Andrew, where I was just going around in circles really initially, and then it was just a case of by default where Relief Rally, God bless her heart, of course she's not in the Manir and Suede silks now, so I don't know how much she would have cost to have gone on, but I just don't think she'll stay. All the comments last year were that she was a here and now filly as a 2-year-old, and that's why they ran her as much as they did, to make the most of her. Regal Jubilee, whether or not she needs the ground that she faced last time out, like you say, and I wonder if that form is worth just taking with a bit of a pinch of salt, but not surprised that she's gone into favoritism. Bulgaria, just again a guessing game with the trainer switch then, for all that we know that Marco Botti would know plenty about this filly then, and so I was really struggling with it. And then I went back and watched El Malka's debut start. It was so impressive, like everything that she did wrong in it. So I mean, she was drawn out wider, she got behind, never looked the winner anywhere, dived to her left to make her run, and then came through with a really powerful run. I know the Roger Varian yard, I wouldn't say they're out of form as such. They could do with that win, but yesterday they had that nose defeat of their 5-4 favourite. They did have a second with a 4-5 shot earlier on, and a few favourites beaten a couple of weeks ago there, but they're not exactly not firing as such. But yeah, I thought that she was worth taking the chance with then in the Fred Darling as well, about 6-1 for El Malka, and hopefully then, Dave, she can do what she did, or something similar, something impressive as she did on her debut. But that's what we were looking. What were you liking?
Well, yeah, I mean, we literally spent way too long talking about this race because we're all of the same opinion, I think. So, like, yeah, we talked about Relief Rally. I don't really need to say too much more about any of them. The one thing I'll say about Almalka, obviously half sister to Ben Battle, we know she's beautifully well bred. She's her size Kingman, so you never know, there could be some extra speed that comes out of that. I think she's a genuine 1,000 guineas contender. I know it sounds mad, but obviously I'm saying that off the back of maybe she wins this race. Now that is potentially a tiny bit of a stretch. You've touched on the fact that she's a 5 or 6-1 poke in here, but she's 66-1 for the 1,000 guineas. I mean, if she did go and pop up in here, then she'd be a fraction of that price, I'd imagine, after. I think the last time we've had a 1,000 guineas winner from this race going on to obviously win the 1,000 guineas was a 4th in 2000. So that's where I'm saying that she doesn't necessarily even need to go and win this to prove her class after. I'm a bit worried to actually like bet her and get stuck in, because it may be the inexperience catches her out. But there's loads to sort of point towards the fact that there's a bold run bounds to happen from her. Yeah, so she'd be my selection in there as well. Look at us all, we're all in agreement. Matty put her up in his column as well, so that's 4 from 4.
4 from 4 as well then. Matty joining the party as well with El Malka in here. Oh God, we've never had a 4. Oh my goodness me. 4 of us then on a one.
I'm glad you didn't say foursome, Kate.
I stopped myself. Could you tell? I just about stopped myself then with that one. A 4. El Malka then 6-1 shot in here, despite doing so much wrong on her debut. We're all in agreement then. Oh my goodness me. Right, bring on the Fred Darling.
Just going to for a place now.
Yeah, exactly. God forbid. Now we move back up to air for the 225. This is, of course, the Scottish Champion Hurdle, limited handicap, grade 2, 4-year-olds and over 2 miles. And the usual protagonists then are in this one. Willie Mullins has Bialystok. At the head of the market is Loda Sud then in here for the Skeltons. So, Dave, this is a real cracking little race.
Yeah, it does look a good race. We've got a lot that ran in the county hurdle coming in here, and obviously Loda Sid does head the market. He was very close to winning that race. Absurd for me. I know there was probably some visually more easy winners at the Cheltenham Festival, but Absurd was one of the easiest winners of the week. So I think Loda Sid deserves to be upgraded much more than the £3 the handicapper does. He's top price 4-1. I think that is definitely more than fair, especially if you're up for a bit of banditry this weekend, because there's 4 places up for grabs, 5th of the odds. I don't think you'd be going very far wrong to have a good go on him. I do like Bialystok that you mentioned. I think he's a summer horse, so I don't think the soft ground's really definitely going to suit him. So again, with Willie Mullins just running horses, if he was doing this out of intent, I'd be more keen to bet him, but I wonder if he is just running in for the sake of it. But he's worthy of a mention. 13-2 is a tiny bit skinny with the fact that we could be reaching that he needs better ground. The other one that Willie has sent over there is Westport Cove. It was another one that I quite liked for that county hurdle. Clipped Hills, I think it was the top of the hill, but really unlucky in that last race. They did run him at Fairy House, ran okay, to be fair. Probably not a good enough run to say that he'd go and win this, and obviously they were miles behind Loda Sid, but Westport Cove I think is definitely worth a mention and got a bit of a chance. But Loda Sid probably is a pretty good favourite for this. 4-1 probably seems generous. So Loda Sid will hopefully win the Scottish Champion Hurdle.
Well, hopefully. I'm going to have a saver on him because he was my bet then in the county. And so to go and see him going and win here, it would slightly kill me, Andrew. So I'm going to have a saver on Loda Sud all the same. But who did you like?
Yeah, it would kill me as well. I had a £10 each way Trixie on Langer down to the Coral Cup, unexpected party for the Grand Annual, all going on to Loda Sud for this. And it was,
no.
plus loads of other sort of lucky 15s and 31s and sort of Skelton runners. So yeah, it'd be just my luck if he goes and wins this. But you know, he might. Is it an afterthought because of the Trainers' Championship, or you know, is he still well handicapped, as Dave makes a good case for, very possibly. Favourite Fortune was the one I tipped up for the Supreme. I put him up on the preview circuit when he was 270 to back on Betfair. I got laughed at a lot. and then he's gone off like massively short. He's run an absolute blinder. He's finished sixth. He's the best of the British, albeit there weren't many of them, of course. And he's jumped like a snooker table. Still got to beat something like nine or 10 lengths. But he's an Alan King trained hurdler running on a Saturday, so that worries me. I'll stick him in the play spot, but I'm not sure on that. The one I've backed is First Street. Now he's had yet another wind operation. This is his fourth, I think. He did win first time back after wind surgery first time, and he's by Golden Horn, whose first time wind up horse is a 7 from 28 for a good profit. Henderson, first time wind up, is a positive angle as well. He's 16s into 12s as well since the final decks have come out. He comes here a fresh horse. He's consistent. He's placed in all 4 starts it seems. So I've just bet First Street each way in an open race, but I do fear and respect Lotus Sud, particularly after the case Dave's made for him.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, case made then as well for Lotus Sud, and we're both going to have a saver. I don't feel quite so bad now about him being my selection for the county and getting beaten in that then after what you had riding on him. So we're both going to have a saver on him. I'm also over the moon said First Street because he is one of my 2 then. First Street, like I say, first time after the wind operation, fresher horse than most after he was, again, another one of those Henderson horses taken out of the Coral Cup. But I know that he disappointed in this race last year, but he is well down the weights then from that this time around. Looks a very well treated horse, and going from a braided company back into a handicap hopefully will be a positive. And also one that's much more difficult to make the case for is Salsada, who's actually officially £8 out of the handicap here. That's been largely offset though by Dylan Johnston's £5 claim, leaves her £3 out of a handicap. Now she actually also ran in this race last year, finished in front of the aforementioned First Street in that. Didn't run too badly then at all. And I know that you're still trying to hark back to her previous form when she finished second behind Epatont in the Grade 2 Yorkshire Rose. But if she can revert back to similar form to what she was showing then, she is very lightly raced since then with just the 3 starts where she's been given some pretty tough tasks. And last time out, she was never really able to fire in that Haydock race where she was held up and never able to feature, but it was a bounce back in the right direction for her. I know she's out of the weights, but for an each way play, I didn't think she was the worst way to go. 240 at Newbury now. Oh, before I do that, actually should mention another each way plus race with BetMGM. 4 places on offer then up at Ayr. Now back to the Greenham, where of course we have the turn of the boys, and this time around this is the Group 3 for the 3-year-olds over 7 furlongs. So, Andrew, I'll go back to you then for this one. Again, a bit of a head scratcher for a lot of these horses here.
Yeah, tricky. So we're talking, we don't know the ground. We're suspecting it might be softer than the current being given. We don't know the draw as well. We've seen even in sort of like 8 or 9 runner races at Newbury, you can get a strong draw bias. If you look at the drone footage, you've got sort of like a green half of the track and a brown half of the track, and the horses on the green side tend to do a lot better. So we could be looking at horses doing better from one side. I mean, last year, for example, Isaac Shelby caused a bit of a surprise in this race, 11-1 into 15-2. You had to be drawn low and up with the pace. Store 2 beat Store 1, 15-2 and 14-1. And the 5 lowest draws would finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was a huge disadvantage to be drawn on the stand side half of the track. So again, we might have some clues by the time of this race. That's something worth looking out for. And again, I mean, I try to avoid tipping favourites, and I keep coming back to Zoom here from Stall 3 for Rafe Beckett. Particularly, that Rolling Mile win last November worked out incredibly well with Kikuli winning on the Rolling Mile earlier this week. Balmakara, of course, one of the next time of asking, and so the front 3 in that race all won next time out. Zoom going to Sonclone, winning in listed company very, very easily indeed, albeit an even money favourite. So I just thought, although Rafe Becker perhaps not firing on all cylinders yet, his only winner in the last couple of weeks was an odds-on shot. Maybe Zoom can make it 4 from 4. Ballymount Boyle wasn't hugely keen on, because when he's gone into group company, he's been beaten every time, 0 from 3. So he's still 11 as well. So I might sort of just, for the purposes of this pod, take a flyer and think it's going to be low draws, and maybe zoom over a couple of other low drawn ones for the forecast. Perhaps a last goal for Carl Burke.
Yeah, it's like you say, Rafe Beckett, the form hasn't fully started ticking in just yet, but it's interesting on the draw angle though. Zoom, as you say, drawn low then in 3. Ballymount Boy next in the betting, 8-1 then. So quite a jump up to our next in the betting for this one, but he is drawn higher. And again, I'm just going to sound like I keep copying you for today, Andrew, because Zoom, I was trying to find a case for any one of these others. I do like Watch My Tracer, not just because of a name, but I really like that reappearance run. He's probably the one who's overpriced of those in behind. But to be honest, Zoom with that subsequent form that worked out from his penultimate start, Dave, I just thought it looked really solid. So yeah, I'm not going to waste too much energy trying to find something to take him on either with Zoom. But did you have an alternative?
I did have an alternative view. He does potentially look very special, doesn't he? 3 from 3 over the trip. I don't know. There's just something about it that's just making me nervous to get stuck into him when he's like an 11-8 poke. As much as he's unexposed and could be good, there's a few others in here that could be hopefully quite good as well. The one that I landed on, and I think this is also like semi-price driven, top price 9 at the time of recording. I think I'm going to take a bit of a punt on Army Ethos. Now drawn 8, so potentially the wrong side of it, but he made a now 93 horse look bang average first time up. It was only beaten by River Tiber the next time after. That was beaten a neck. That was in the Coventry Stakes. Had a prep run for this race, right? And albeit he was beaten 2-9 on the all-weather, they've applied cheap pieces now. So not necessarily saying that's a positive or anything like that, but at least they've given him a run and then they've decided actually we need to do something about this, as opposed to that being his first run. They must have known that he needed it for whatever reason. 9-1 is available. Obviously, if he had have just won at 2-9, you could argue that his price would probably be half that. There are 3 places up for grabs. And I think even if he is a bit dodgy, I still think they'll be in the first 3. So I think Army Ethos is a fairly safe play to take on the favourite Zoom, who could be quite special. But I think if Army Ethos puts his head down, I reckon he could be better than Zoom. But we'll see if Holly Doyle can get the best out of him. So Army Ethos 9-1 each way.
Yeah, well, he definitely is already better on official ratings at this stage. Anyway, £6 officially rated better than Zoom. But yeah, if he actually puts his head down and concentrates in the headgear, 9-1 could look a big price for him. As we move back to air again for the 3 o'clock, Mares Handicap Hurdle, 4 odds and over 3 miles. A penny 100 for Townend and Mullins, 100-30 leading the way here. So again, Dave, we just have this narrative going through all of our air races then on Saturday. So do Messrs Townend and Mullins win this one?
Well, this is an interesting one because I'll tell the viewers a short story, right? We obviously look at the cards at final declarations. They left a penny 100 in at 12-1 for this race before the jockey bookings came in. As soon as Paul Townend was jocked up, 3-1 went everywhere. So I think before obviously the jockey bookings went in, a lot of people were thinking that Sailor V was the best of the Willie Mullins lot. This a penny 100's really interesting though, because 11-8 favourite, she was beaten on her penultimate start by Bioluminescence, who looked quite good, but maybe isn't so good. But a penny 100 just ran no sort of race that time. She ran, I think it was in the Honeysuckle Mares Novice last time behind Jada Grugy and was actually staying on. So in the scheme of the level of form we've got in this race with some of the other mares, that's pretty good. She was behind Jatara a long time ago as well. And obviously Paul Townend has chosen to ride her. But as I touched on, was like a 12-1 poke before and when they did the book. Because Paul's on, she's a 3-1 poke. I do think she's got a proper chance, but she's short enough for me. But I'm glad Willie sent him over anyway, because you know I get snobby about the ratings. 122 would have been the highest rated mare in the race if Willie hadn't sent his 3 over. So I'm glad he has. The one that I think has got a proper chance, and I'm glad that Willie has sent the runners because it's given me a bigger price as well, is Ottazini, because this is a horse that we definitely know does stay. There's loads of horses with question marks about their stamina in here. Top price 12 at the time of recording, was 14s again when the first shows came out, nibbled in a few places, but there's 4 spots up for grabs. As I say, stamina is assured for this horse. Beat Cadell on her penultimate start, and I think Cadell's an all right-ish horse. I don't think she's necessarily the best handicap horse in training, this Ottazini, but the mares division is, I don't know, sounds a bit rude, but a bit substandard, I find. I think her mark of 122 will stand up in this company. I think she's got a bit of a chance. So yeah, 14-1 she was before, 12-1 top price now, 4 places up for grabs. I think she's a bit of each way value, but yeah, this a penny 100's proper short. If they smash into this one, Kate, then they obviously know something that we don't.
Yeah, because it was interesting, wasn't it? When I clicked onto the race and saw a penny 100 up to the head of it, I thought, I swear I didn't see that earlier. But yeah, like I say, as soon as Paul Townend then got jocked up, that price has massively contracted, and C'est La Vie has gone completely the other way then in the betting, as has Pink in the Park. So Andrew, jockey bookings are dictating the market at present at Air.
Yeah, no strong opinion here. I'll take on the Mullins contingent. I'll take on Ottazini, who's shown a clear preference for a right-handed track, albeit beaten narrowly at Doncaster last time. And I'll go Coco Mademoiselle for Dan Skelton. You could argue that she's got a touch of the Oxos, and that her two previous wins were both followed by short price defeats at 6-4 on and 3-1 on. But the first of those came at Stratford when she was daftly given a patient ride at a track where such tactics don't suit. Mr. Karan Gethings won that race on a prominent race for 16-1 Getaway Theatre. And the next defeat was at Huntingdon, but it was Springtime Promise who beat her, and she's currently running off a rating of 131. So it was a case of just sort of bumping into one, despite the fact she was a short price favourite for that. You look at a record in Mares Only Company, it's pretty darn good. So in this grade, I think is the key to her. So I'll go Coco Mademoiselle.
Ooh, a 5-1 shot then for the Skeltons at Air. Right, onto the 3:15 at Newbury, the Spring Cup handicap for 4-year-olds and over a mile. Goodness me, I've only just seen the betting for this one. This is wild. Wide open then, Andrew, for this one. Now, this is an each way plus race again with BetMGM. 5 places on offer. I dare say we may be needing those.
Yeah, this is an absolute belter. Again, the draw and pace angles are going to play a role. The market's wrong at the moment because they've got Latam and Navaggio as the two market leaders, but they're both running the Lincoln and they're both given patient rights. They were raced into a strong headwind, and they were flattered by where they finished, in my opinion, second and third at 16-1, 22-1. You look at the first 4 home in the Lincoln, or first 5 home in the Lincoln. Midfield held up in rear, towards rear, held up in rear. Getting cover from the wind and coming from off the pace was the key to that. Now, one who didn't get cover from the wind was one I think I tipped up, one of 2 with the Gatekeeper I tipped up on this pod. The pair finished 7th and 8th, and they are both going to win big races at some point this term because they ran blinders into the headwind against the bias. Thunderball, Race Centre, prominent press leader over 2 furlongs out. You do worry about what's even between the ears of these jockeys sometimes. Now, I know you can't all be ridden patiently, but when there's a sort of 45-mile-an-hour gusting headwind, do not go from the front in a cavalry charge 1 mile handicap. To finish 7th, being 8 1/4 lengths, I thought was a huge effort. Actually finished almost 3 lengths clear of the Gatekeeper. The next prominent racer to finish. Thunderball will start favourite for this, probably 5-1 or 6-1. It was 14-1 earlier today, and if I had access to Oddschecker without paying a tenner, I'd have probably backed it at that price. But I shall go in at 11-1, 10-1 now anyway, and bet him each way. Stall 8. Not sure if that's good or not. Probably be fine. In the middle gives him sort of options. He's Knight of Thunder, so we know he's going to go on the ground. So I think Thunderball, absolute nap material on Saturday.
And one of the unofficial mascots of this show, of course, as well. And as you were giving that fantastic preview, it must be said, but I was also mainly paying attention to trying to find our new cocktail then for this one, because Nymphadora doesn't run then. Oh no, it was Thunder Bear, wasn't it?
Thunder Bear. Well, to be honest, I think a Nymphadora Thunderball sounds even.
I know, doesn't it actually? Yeah. I know. I just trying to find another name to combine for a cocktail, and the Dashing Roger Thunderballs don't actually sound all that fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds like a website we don't want to go into.
Don't be clicking that into your search bar anyway, Dave. That'll take a bit of explaining. Sorry, it's Thunder Bear, of course, is the mascot, not Thunderball, but Thunderball though for Andrew all the same. So Andrew was very strong on that one, Dave. Who did you like?
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion because Andrew's even touched on there. I just want to reiterate, nap material there for Thunderball. Definite case to be made. He did make a real good case for him last time out as well. So like that. How about some Thunderball Radobargs? Sound like we're on the continent.
Ooh, yeah.
To be fair, I could get on board with that.
Yeah, same. It sounds like it's got whiskey in it, doesn't it? It sounds like it means business, right? I think Radobarg means business as well. Really interesting horses from my perspective. You want to catch him on his first couple of runs at the beginning of the season. So form figures for that is first, then it was first again, and then third last season. But it was third behind Ottoman Fleet in the Sefton Stakes. We saw Ottoman Fleet go and do the double in that this time round, so it wasn't a fluke last year, had the same sort of prep. And then the run after was only 3/4 of a length behind Chindit in the Paradise Stakes. So early season form, I think, is key to this horse. And that's shown because his last run at the Curragh, which is the most recent run, the Irish Lincolnshire, last month, he finished 3rd behind Chaz's Me. And I thought it was a pretty good effort, to be honest with you. Those first 3 were a little bit clear from the 4th. We've got William Buick in the saddle as well now. And David Egan's a jockey that I do love, but William Buick, for me, is the best jockey at the moment, up there with Ryan Moore. So William Buick being booked for this, I think, is positive as well. So he might be drawn the wrong side. I know Andrew's touched on where his is drawn in A. I'm up next to Latam, or a couple of stalls away from Latam. So hopefully I'll get a bit of a toe into the race. He's 10-1. We've touched on the fact there's 5 or 6 places up for grabs. So I'll have an each way swing on him. There's no confidence in it, but there is going to be so many winners that come off the back of this race. There'll be so many hard luck stories. Hopefully it's not one of ours.
No, hopefully not, because like I say, there are guaranteed to be plenty of them then at Newbury. But yeah, really, really competitive contest, as is this, our final scheduled race for now. Back in air, this is for 3:35, the Scottish Grand National Handicap Chase. Of course, the Premier Handicap for 5-year-olds and over 4 miles in this one. Now, McDermott is the one who heads away for Danny Mullins and Willie Mullins. Only a 6-year-old in here. Then we've got Mr. Incredible, of course, for Willie Mullins, and Patrick Mullins taking the ride. I don't know if he's sporting new colours, is he, or just one of the other owners that Mr. Incredible Dave is down to wear in this one. But who are you siding with? Is it again one of Mullins's lot or otherwise?
No, I'm going otherwise. We haven't had an Irish winner of the Scottish National, I don't think, for, well, at least for a very long time, like 1800s or something, when it wasn't the same race, I don't think. And I know that's probably because of the fact that we haven't had too many that have tried, but I still think this is very after 40 for Willie Mullins. And we've talked about this before with Staying Chasers, which I won't dwell on too much because one of mine run recently as well, but they do need time to recover from their races. Obviously, Paul Townend made the right choice in the Grand National and Iron Maximus. Spanish Harlem's going to come in for more support. Top price 12 at the time recording. Pretty sure will be single figures everywhere. And Mr. Incredible is just one of those horses that I think anyone that's ever watched horse racing or anyone that's ever seen this horse run would be like, oh, he's going to win next time out. And he just doesn't ever win next time out, does he? So I'm sort of against those ones. I did do some trendy bits for this one as well. And I know obviously they only get you so far, don't they? But this isn't the type of race that I'd want to get too heavily involved in. But off the recent trends, right? So I've looked at 10-year and 5-year trends. Elvis Mail ticks the boxes for every single one of them. He is a top prize 50-1. So who knows what sort of prize he might go off. He does have that recent run. And unfortunately, because it was a win, he's got a penalty, but the penalty is higher than what the BHA handicap has put him up. So he's £4 out the handicap. I know people look at Bruce Lynn being on board, seeing £3, thinking, oh, they're claiming 3 back, but he's always atop this horse. So as much as that's not so good, right? You don't want to be giving extra weight away that you don't need to be given. I think he's got a bit of a chance. He, like I say, ticks all the boxes. If you want to see that, go check out the website column to see that. The other one that ticked loads of boxes, this was the 10-year trends, was My Silver Lining. Now, this 8-year-old mare will need a career best to do this, but she's got wins on all types of ground. She ran that. She had that decent run, the national trial second, when she was second to was it Yeah Man? I think it was. That was on heavy ground. She jumps for fun. She's as game as they come. So she's the type of horse that will put her head down. She's about 18-1 top price for this. I think that's more than a fair enough price. So she might just find something too good, but she will definitely be there or thereabouts. So I think she's going to be the strong each way play. And then we'll have a small swing, the price of a couple of Freddos, on Elvis Mail as well.
On Elvis Mail too. I think I actually sided with them race last year. It was a non-runner on account of the ground on that occasion. But My Silver Lining, though, the other one at 20-1. Again, it goes without saying, an each way plus race. BetMGM 6 places on offer then. So Dave, fully utilising that, Andrew, are you going to go each way, or are you just going to play this race straight?
Yeah, tricky one, obviously. One of the interesting angles, a bit like the Grand National, is so I use the Proform software. They give a pace rating to every horse based on an aggregate of his last 3 runs. 4 points for a front-running effort, 2 points for a sort of prominent chase leaders, track leaders, and 0 for a hold-up ride. And in the Grand National, since the fences were played around with in 2015, every winner had a pace rating of 0 or 2, so they were generally held up in the recent starts. Exactly the same for the Scottish National, pretty much. I think 9 of the last 10 winners had a pro-form pace rating of 0 or 2. So, you know, those who tend to race on the front end are perhaps not going to come to, you know, sort of stay there. So I was looking at Beauport, who is a horse I've always regarded as a spring horse, returned to form at Utah last time out. He's had 6 runs in his career in March and April. He's completed the course on 5 occasions, won 3 of them. You know, won a 4th in another, and 9th in the Kinmure, I think it was last season, when he actually did second best of the British trained horses. So he's basically second best in a British Kinmure, because you know you can't beat the Irish in that nowadays. So I thought Beauport, 8-year-old, Twisted Davis Yard going well, he would have a squeak. I thought it was interesting Mr. Vango was entered here because he, you know, I thought the Bet365 Gold Cup was a race for him a week later. He's perhaps shown a bit of a preference for going right-handed as well, so I'd rather he missed this and went to Sandown. So we'll see how he gets on. Again, he's a front runner, which is a bit of a worry for this race. And so yeah, I like Dave's case for Elvis Mail. Certainly wouldn't argue with that. But I would say Beauport each way. I think he's 18 to 1, 20 to 1, something like that. Given his record in the spring, given the fact he's usually coming from off the pace, I think he'll run a big race here.
Yeah, and after that win last time out, he was one of the ones who made my shortlist, as was Mr. Fango as well. Then, so I'm pleased that you spoke about those 2. But let's say Beauport was your main selection. I'm also with Broken Halo though on that running style, where he's a hold-up performer. But Bryony Frost taking the ride. We know Bryony's more of a positive rider. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting you said, but I did after that Red Rum Handicap chase when I looked at her rides by running style. And you know, you make a fortune if you back the front runner. So obviously you can't always tell how they're going to be ridden pre-race, but she's generally not a horse to have on your side. It's probably something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've got a fancied front runner, you end up putting Bryony on it. And but yeah, she tends to be not so good from off the pace, and does, you know, horses ridden patiently by Bryony Fox do underperform against their market expectations. So but it could be a change of tactics on the card. Who knows?
I know, I hope not, because I don't want that. I want him to be held up here. And of course, he is entered in the race that you'd imagine he should have been entered in the first place anyway, at Sandown at the end of the season, because Sandown is his track with the Royal Artillery races that he runs in. But 50 to 1, stamina to the 4, running style that should suit if he just has his usual running style. I thought Broken Halo was probably one that was overpriced. Right. Anything from anywhere else then? So Andrew, I'll go back to you, please. Anything from anywhere else for you?
Yeah, didn't have a lot of time to look elsewhere, but in the 350 at Newbury, the confined maiden, Economics, after William Haggis, was 4th on his debut last season. That was in the Zoom Newmarket race on the 3rd of November, where the first 3 to come out of that race all won at the next time of asking. So yeah, Economics could well make it sort of 4 from 4 for the in the frame horses in that race. Coming out of Stool 2, that Newmarket run came on heavy ground. Night of Thunder's a profitable to back blind on good to soft or soft to going. Just a case of how you think the yard's going at the moment. You know, perhaps a little bit slow to get going, although Sunfall did win well back to Kempton the other night.
Oh yes, exactly. So that is Andrew's. Anything from anywhere else, Dave? What about you?
I don't really have anything from anywhere else, but I will just quickly mention about Lily de Burley, because I mentioned her in that handicap hurdle. I would have absolutely smashed her up when she was 13 to 2. She's in a mare's maiden hurdle Friday at Ayr. So just in case anyone was curious, I think she'll be put in short, and I don't know why they'd waste a handicap mark. So I won't be playing her unless they make her a stupid price. But I just think after me being so bullish last time, it's worth me mentioning that maybe swerve her tomorrow, even though she probably will win.
Okay then, so yeah, like I say, wait then on that price perspective. Okay then, Dave, nap time. What's your nap?
I mean, I'm going to go real boring, because a rest is the most God-given certainty of the weekend, to quote Jamie Codd.
Perfect. Andrew, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure we know where you're going to go with this.
Yeah, most people will look at the size of the field and say it's a lottery, but I'm in Thunderball.
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolute gimme. There you go. If anything, that nap was worth it just for that line then in itself. I'm going to be less original than the pair of you two then. I think that Kate Bourbon wins the novices hurdle at 4:45 at a race that we haven't covered in this, but Townend, Mullins, and I think that we're only just getting that price of that. I thought he should be shorter because you've got the stablemate in there then as well. So then, not one of our races that we've covered, but otherwise I'd probably have to go for El Malka then, with the four of us on her side in the Fred Darling at 2:05 at Newbury. Right, that's everything from us on this week's show. So big thank you to the lads for all of their hard work as per usual. Big thank you to our sponsors, BetMGM. Best of luck with your bets this weekend. Enjoy the action, and we'll speak to you again next week.